Okay, we are recording this, and thanks everyone for joining us. Just a couple of words of introduction. If you check the chat, there are a couple of links we've already posted in the chat. The first link is the project manifesto, which it gives you an overview of the database project we're working on that we're going to be talking about today. So that's just an overview. The second link in the chat is a link to the previous webinar we gave. It's a YouTube link to the webinar we gave in August on the first introduction to using the database, where we talked about adding items to the inventory. Today, we're going to spend most of the time talking about documenting service information, but we'll start with a bit of an introduction first on the inventory part of it, just to refresh, and for those of you who missed the first one, bring you a bit up to speed. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. You can put questions in the chat if you think of them during rather than sort of interrupting us in the beginning. Type your questions into the chat, and then we can deal with them all at the end in order. Okay, thank you. What I've got shown up on the screen right now is the user manual, which we have developed for this software program. And it talks about some of the things we'll go through today, but I'll try and post a link to that user manual as well, or we can circulate it as an attachment through email. We'll figure that out towards the end, but that's available to anyone who wants to use it. So I'm going to now stop sharing that and go to how you just get the program running when you first start the program. So let me, give me a moment here just to clean up my screen. I'm going to be sharing my screen, which is a bit messy, but I wanted to just show you the simplest way to use this program. I'm going to share my main screen here, which has got a whole bunch of stuff on it. But right here, I've got my cursor pointing to this little shortcut. I've created a shortcut on my main desktop, which would take me to the CMMS program. So this is the simplest way to do it. I've also got the program. I'll pull up a directory here, which I hope you can see on the screen, which shows if I, but it's, again, it's a list of a whole bunch of programs, but the one we're going to run today.
How are you?
Hello, thanks for joining. Just talking about how to start up the program. You can go to the directory and find the file in whatever directory you've got. But what I've done is if you right click on whatever directory it's in, you can send it to the desktop, which is what I've already done. So that if you right click, you get this menu here, you go down to send to, you get another menu, you go to desktop and click that, and it'll create a shortcut. So that's what I've done here, so that now every time I want to run this program, I just have to double click on that, and it now opens the window of the login screen of the program. So I'm assuming everyone can see that login screen. Someone needs to turn off their microphone. Yeah, thanks. We're asking all the participants to mute your microphones because we tends to get a lot of background noise. Okay. So what we're doing now
Hello.
is, hello, welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sorry. Yeah, thank you. I was just trying to check whether I'm muted, but
Yeah, okay. Thanks for joining us. We're just starting the introduction of how to get into the program. So this is the login screen. And I'm going to log in as myself, but you have to go to this first box, select your username, and there's a pull down list of, we hope, all the engineers who might be using this program, and some who obviously won't be using the program, but it's the most current list of clinical engineering staff in the eastern, western, northern districts. So those are my initials. I'm just gonna log in as myself, but obviously when you log in, you should find your own name here and use that as your login. So the password is the same for everybody currently. It's GMH in lowercase, which stands for Ghana Medical Help. So you have to type in that password. If you don't type in the password and type go, it'll just give you a message saying you must enter a password. So type in GMH and go. If you decide you don't want to do this, you can quit and it'll just close the program. But we're going to go to the next screen. So the next screen will show you a number of boxes where there are choices. And these pull down arrows always indicate that you have a choice of, like there's a drop down menu that you can choose from. And the first time you use the program, you'll need to change some of these entries. For example, default region might be Upper West instead of Upper East, but this is showing the entries that I put in the last time I used the program. So all of these boxes will be filled in automatically with what was entered the last time the program was used. So in most cases, after you've entered this, set this up once, you'll never have to do it again. You just click next because it'll all be the same as what you last put in. The program remembers, the last time it was used. So these have all been filled out. Oh, and just if you're using it for the first time, you need to fill out these in order, because first you want to fill in the region and then the district, because once you fill in the region, the list of districts in the pull down menu is only districts for that region. So those are only the districts in the Upper East. If I change this to Upper West, I'd get it. The districts shown there would be for the Upper West region. So you do this in order because it narrows down the list in each successive box. And so once you're picked this district, it'll only show you the institutions in that district. And in that case, we've only got Kasana and Akana East. We've only got on our list the Navarongo War Memorial Hospital. And those are for this demonstration, I'm going to be using the data that we have from that hospital. So anyway, that gets you through the second screen. The third screen is your main dashboard. So the main dashboard is where you always go back to after you've finished working with some part of the program. And just for a quick review, I'll talk briefly about asset register, the asset register actions. but we want to talk mostly about the work log today. So very quickly, clicking on this button takes you to another screen, where you have three choices. You can add new equipment to the inventory. You can enter a single equipment ID in the inventory if you want to just make some changes to the information on that particular item. Or you can look at the complete inventory list by clicking on this box. So I'll click on this one first, just to show you what the screen looks like. It's a kind of a summary of all of the assets that have already been entered for this institution, the War Memorial Hospital. So this is the inventory list, and it's sorted by equipment number. So that's the barcode number in descending order. That's the default when you look at it. However, you have a choice. If you look at this yellow box up here, you can sort on any column by clicking on that column. So now, depending on which version of Windows you use, the right click might not work. So you can go up here and just say, I've clicked on the, well, let's say a common name. I'll click on the common name column, and then I'll say sort in this. I'll go up here to the menus above, and I'll click on sort in ascending order. And I click on that and watch what happens. So now this whole list is sorted by alphabetically by the common name of the equipment. So first we got 2 anesthesia units, then we got some automatic hematology analyzers, got a bunch of BP apparatus, a couple of centrifuges. So it's grouped things. So if you want to see how many centrifuges have I put in the inventory, this is a very quick way to look and say, oh, maybe I've missed one. Or if you want to make a, some change, like maybe it's moved to a different location or user department, you can make changes here. So that's this third option in the inventory or asset screens. The first and the most commonly used one would be if you want to add new equipment to the inventory. So we'll click on that and you get this screen. I'll just point out a couple of things on this screen. Up here in yellow, it says boxes in yellow are mandatory. They're not actually mandatory. If you leave them blank, it'll still save the form, but we've made the yellow boxes highlighted as they're the most important things. You should always try to fill in that information if you can. So I'm going to just fill in some arbitrary information here. The first thing is the barcode number. So you should always have with you some barcode labels before you start taking inventory. Because when we get into talking about the service information, you'll see why that's important. But the first thing, so I'll just make up a barcode number here of 9999. And then I'll start to fill in information here. Let's say it's another, and this again is a drop-down list of common names of equipment. Now, we're also showing beside that another name, which is part of a nomenclature system called UMDNS. And this is a more specific name for a device. And I'll show you where that comes into play. We'll go to centrifuges. So let's say we want to add, we realize there's a centrifuge that we haven't taken inventory of. So we go down to centrifuge and we see, oh, there are a whole bunch of centrifuges. Why are there so many centrifuges in this list? It's because over here in the standard nomenclature, there are more specific descriptions of the different kinds of centrifuges. So now you can choose from the list of more specific descriptions. Let's say it's a tabletop high-speed centrifuge. So you click on this one, and then that entry gets put in the second box here, centrifuge tabletop high-speed. So the common name, which is what, the users would say, this is just a centrifuge, but this gives you a bit more specific information, which is important when you're taking inventory. Now, I'm just going to the manufacturer box. Again, it's a pull-down list. You can click on that. The serial number, there's no pull-down list here. You have to actually enter some text there. It could be alphanumeric. It's usually just numeric, but anything at all is acceptable in that box. Just going back, if you don't find the manufacturer in this pull-down list, you can click on this button. And I'm not going to go through that because we're just trying to do this briefly, but you can click on this button and add a new manufacturer if you can't find it. Same thing with user department. We've got a list here of user departments. And let's just put this in the laboratory. Medical laboratory. Let's put it in the blood bank. Now, if you don't find the user department, again, there's a way to branch out and add a new user department to the list that you're presented with here. So if you can't find it here, you can go in and create a new user department name. But we think we've got most of them. Anyway, but then there's a specific text box because there may be medical, in the medical lab blood bank, there may be several rooms. So we'll just put in a room number there. That's important if you get a phone call saying, our centrifuge is doing funny things. Can you come and take a look at it? This will help you to find it if you don't know exactly where it is. Okay, we're adding this piece of equipment to our inventory list. So as much information as possible is important to enter here, so that when you print out reports and things, you get as much useful information as possible. However, some of this is filled in by default. The date of the inventory was taken is today's date, so that'll automatically be filled in for you. The other automatic fields that are filled in is the name of the staff entering the data. So I previously had entered my name as the default, and the institution down here, the hospital name, the district, and the region are also by default associated with this new inventory entry. And that's important when we're going to be taking your inventory in your hospital and amalgamating it with the inventory from other hospitals to get, a countrywide view of the all the equipment in the country. So that's all done automatically. Now that's all I'm going to talk about today. There are other things which you can feel free to explore. This country of origin is a pull down list of all the countries in the world that I could find from, I can't remember, there's some database. Anyway, there should be all the countries you can find in the world. Here we'll put something, I don't know, Zimbabwe in here. Doesn't matter, but year of manufacture, you have to, it's a 4 digit, so you could put in 119, put in a year of manufacture, and then date of purchase. When you click on any date field, it'll automatically show you a calendar. Oops, sorry. Sorry, that was my phone. you'll see this little icon beside it. That's a calendar. If you click on that, it brings up the current month and the current date is highlighted. You can just click on that. Or if it was purchased, maybe it was purchased 2 weeks ago, so you can put that date in there. So any date fields are always associated with a calendar to make it easy for you to enter the date value. And it's year, month, day is the format for those dates. So now I can save that inventory entry by clicking on this button here. And that will close the form and take you back to the previous menu, which is this one here. And we can go back to the main dashboard here, but I'll just jump to the complete inventory list and we should see it. Let me see. That last item I entered should appear here somewhere. Maybe I have to close the database and reopen it. Well, anyway, I think I have to close the database and reopen it for that to appear on that screen. But I'll go back to the main dashboard here because what we want to talk about today is the work log. So whenever you're doing any maintenance on a piece of equipment, you want to document that in this screen. Click on the work log, and then the form you use to record the information about the maintenance you did is called a work order. That's the standard terminology. So we have a list of different kinds of work orders here that you can use to document what you're doing. And the most common one would be the repair work order. I'll just go through the first two here, the repair work order and the PPM work order, because there's a fair amount of detail there. But then I'll go, before we do that, again, there is a button down here where you can view all work orders that have previously been entered in the system. And so I'll just show you that form first to give you a sense of the kind of information that is going to be stored when you create a new work order. So first of all, in the first column, work orders are assigned a number automatically by the system. So that's done automatically. Date work started. Some of these work orders are for training or decommissioning. So there are a number of dates stored as part of the work order information. And I'll get into that later, but one of the important columns is the barcode number, the equipment number. And whenever you're doing service on a piece of equipment, it's really most useful if you can enter the barcode number. Now, in some cases, as we've seen here and in the inventory, barcode numbers have not been assigned, so the equipment number is set to 0. If that's the case, then you've got no information on exactly what kind of equipment it is that was being serviced, unless you put it in the comments. So anyway, in this screen, you can make changes. Say you were doing some repair and you realized you had replaced a fuse, but it wasn't a 1 amp fuse, it was a 2 amp fuse. So let's just make a change there. It was a 2 amp fuse. And we should order 2 amp fuses. So again, we can edit this, we can go down and look at all of the maintenance that's been done and make minor changes to some of the details here. So, okay, I'll go back to the previous screen, because really what I want to spend the time on today is the first two kinds of work orders here. So we're going to start by doing a repair on a piece of existing equipment. So I click on Open Repair Work Order, and then you get this screen, which looks very complicated, but again, the yellow boxes are the ones that are the most important to fill out. Actually, there's some more here. I'll go through some of these. So I've got something in the inventory which I want to use as my example. And this is to help you see the value of having a barcode, label, and inventory information. So I enter a barcode number there, and then I hit enter. The database automatically looks up that barcode number. And if you go over to the right-hand side, there are two boxes that have now been filled in with information. This is the inventory data. Again, this is for information only. Do not edit data in this form, it says at the top, but it shows the equipment number 2433 and tells you then this is a vital signs monitor. It's a Welch-Allyn. It's at the Navrongo War Memorial Hospital, and it's in active service. So it's telling you something about that device, just so you make, in case you made a typo on the barcode number, this is just to make sure you're working on the right device. Now, but then a more important screen is this down below called Maintenance History. What we see here is all of the maintenance records or work orders that have previously been created for this particular device, the number 2433. So, and some of these are examples that I've just filled in today, October 24th. I was just working with this but on September the 7th, there were a couple of other repairs done. There's a battery problem on September the 7th. If you go there, you can scroll along and see what the full information, because these boxes aren't large enough to show all of the information sometimes. So you can scroll forward and see that in this case, sorry, I'm trying to show you that it's talking about the battery was unable to store a charge. Or in the previous one, component, there was a different component failure and replaced a 2-amp fuse. So again, you can see here, in some cases you'll see, oh, we did it keeps blowing that same fuse. There must be something else wrong. If if today's problem with the vital signs monitor is, let's see, let's go back now. That's just to show you some background information. Let's go back now and start documenting the work we're doing on this vital signs monitor. So here's the next yellow box that we think that's important for you to fill out. Describe fault reported. So this is, what did the user tell you was wrong with the device? Because in cases, they will report the fault as being one thing, but when you troubleshoot it, you find out it's actually something else. So we have one box here for fault reported, and then another box here for fault identified. Okay, so let's say screen is blank. So they turn it on and nothing happens. The screen's blank. So you just came into work and found that this had been brought into the unit last week. So date fault reported was actually, let's fill this in as maybe today is Tuesday, but maybe Tuesday the 24th. Maybe it was reported last Friday. So you can fill in that date. Again, that's optional. Date work started, the box down here is filled in automatically as today's date, October the 24th. Now, let's say you finished the maintenance today and you managed to return it to service. Again, there's a calendar here. You can say date returned to service. Labor hours taken to complete the work. This is a numeric code. So I delete the 0 and put in, let's say, 1 hour. Now, in some cases, you may have sent it out for external service, in which case you can fill in these boxes, date taken away and date returned. But in most cases, what you're doing is documenting a repair that you've done on this device. So we'll move over to the next column. And I'll talk about some of the boxes here. Work order status. So let's say this needs a part and the part's not in stock. So you can't finish the repair, in which case I shouldn't have filled in this box. I should have left this blank. So we'll go back and leave that blank, but I'll say, if I had finished it, I could change the status of this work order to closed, meaning all the work has been done. But for now, I'll leave that as open. Troubleshooting steps, let's say checked power supply. Fault identified. So now we're getting closer. It's a component. This is okay. This is a drop-down list of standard failure codes that are used, that are recommended by the Association for the Advancement of Medical Instrumentation in the United States. They've done a lot of studies on equipment maintenance, and it's important here. The reason this is a pull-down list, because it's important to have a rather limited list of descriptions of faults so that you can categorize them and do things like talk about, for example, down here, user error, use failure, failure of device, use error, programming error. If you find out that the user just couldn't find the on-off switch, you can document it as a user failure, for example. But in this case, we're going to change a fuse. So that's a component failure, not battery. There are others: failure caused by abuse or negligence, failure caused by maintenance. Maybe the last time you did a repair, you forgot to reset something to the defaults. And so you can document that. Maybe the failure is caused by a glitch in the power system, or you couldn't identify the fault. So there's a lot of choices here, but you can also just say unknown if you can't pin it. And then actions taken. I'm going to say, well, let's say ordered fuse, 2-amp fuse. Let's say there's a 2-amp fuse that was blown, but we don't have any more in the department, so we had to order another fuse. So that's why we have to leave the work order open until the fuse comes in and you replace it and return it to the user. So we've diagnosed the problem. We can't fix it right now. Waiting for parts. Now, these are all optional. cost of repairs. I don't know. Let's put in a figure here. If you know, this is, you don't have to fill out any of these, but the comments are often very useful because, as you can see, when you see the history, often the comments give you a lot more information. So I'm going to say same fuse. So the power supply in this monitor keeps blowing fuses. So further action would be, let's see if we can figure out what's causing the fuses to blow. So at that point, okay, the system has assigned a work order number 71 to this. So let's save the data. Oh, and I'll just go down here and show you one more thing. This work order already appears in the maintenance history. As a repair, its status is open, the fault screen is blank, and it talks about a 2-amp fuse. So we've already got the information in the maintenance history for that device, but we haven't finished the repair. So let's just close this and go back. Now, if we look at all the work orders, that was number 71, if you'll recall. Now the list of work orders shows you number 71 at the top. It's an open work order, it's a repair. So at this point, when the fuse comes in and you can now finish the job, you could change the status to closed, and then you could add a date in here, date return to service. So using this screen, you can do quick updates on previous work that you weren't able to complete. And you can change this now to, let's say it's the 25th. We've returned it to service. We changed the status to closed. And now that job is finished. And maybe the labor hours are now 2. And we'll go back. So that's a very quick view of how to document a repair and how to look at all your work orders in a quick summary screen. Sorry, my phone keeps ringing. But now I want to talk about the second one, which again, you'll see some similarities, but it's different. This is doing a PPM. Again, the work order number has automatically been assigned as number 72. We're going to use the same equipment ID 2433, which is a vital signs monitor. So now you can see those 2 boxes on the right-hand side are been filled in. The work order number is 72, the type, and this is the current work order showing in the history. The previous work order, which we just did, was a repair. It's now showing that as closed, right? Because we finished that work by replacing the fuse. Okay, but now we're doing a PPM on this device. Again, you could change this to PPM with repair, but let's just do it as a straight PPM. We're going to start it. It started today's because it automatically fills in today's date. Maybe if you've come to this after maybe you did the PPM last week, or you started it last week, but you've just started documenting it, you can go back and change that date by just clicking on the box, and you'll see a little calendar. So let's say we started the PPM on the Friday, but we're only finishing it today. So we're going to return it to service today. Today's date is always in a little red box, so that's easy to find. And labor hours, so let's just put a number in there. There are a couple of boxes down here. Let's say you know, after you did the PPM, you checked electrical safety or checked performance. Let's just do one. So you made sure everything was working. This is just a reminder, check that box. Let's close the PPM work order. We won't talk about faults at this point, although you could do that if there was a repair. You can change the service type here, and that's will be documented in the service history. But we're saying this is a simple PPM, and you could put comments here. Now, I just want the purpose of this being a different kind of work order from a repair work order is got to do with the next screen. When you close a PPM work order, let's see now, a different screen comes up. So this screen talks about the PPM interval. So this is where you get to start setting up a PPM program with a schedule for each device as to how often you want it to have its PPM. And this screen occurs every time you do a PPM on a device. So the screen says the PPM interval and next scheduled PPM are shown below. If these values are correct, click OK. Otherwise, click Change PPM Interval. So let's say the PPM interval is shown as 104 weeks. Really what we want, that's 2 years. Let's say we think we should probably check this once a year. So I'm going to change the PPM interval to 52 weeks. We get, if I click on change, we get this little box here, enter the number of weeks to next PPM, 52. I entered 52 and click OK. It now does a calculation and shows you that the next scheduled PPM is 1 year from today, October the 18th. It's not today's the 24th. That's interesting. I guess that's exactly 52 weeks from today. Maybe it's a leap year next year. Anyway, so this is 52 weeks from today is the October the 18th, 2024. And now you can click OK, and that will be stored as a reminder for when the next PPM is going to be due. So I click OK, and it goes back to this screen here. I think we're getting close to the top of the hour. I'm going to stop and put it open for questions. If we go back to the dashboard screen, I'll just show you very quickly the reports. There's an inventory report. There are several inventory reports you can do. I'll show inventory for one department here, just so we can talk about the operating theater. And this is in the Navrongo Hospital, and it's sorted by location. So in the main room, the operation room, another operation room, suturing room, the theater, washing room. So total items for this department, 22. So if the person in this department says, I want to know all the equipment in my inventory, can you give me a list? You can run this report, print it off, and hand it over to them. Printing, I think well, in my computer, it prints to a PDF, which you could then email to them. But I want to show you the work order report, which again shows the open work orders at the top and then the closed work orders. So 72 was a closed work order that was started on the 20th, and it was a PPM. That was the last work order. I just wanted to show you those reports, which are all available, but we'll go back to the home screen and open it for questions. Please put your questions in the chat if you have any questions, or raise your hand.
I don't see anything in the chat currently, Bill, but please feel free to unmute yourself and just ask a question if you have one. That was a lot.
Yeah. And there is a user manual, which whenever we send out the software to somebody, we also give them a link to this user manual. So if you want to start using the software, just let Edward know, and we'll get you a link to download the software.
Ebenezer, last time you had asked about the risk assessment, and I still plan to give you a summary of the risk classification document with a bit of a simplified explanation. So that's still pending.
Any other questions? Don't be shy. There are no dumb questions. Okay.
Just a sec. There's one message in the or question in the chat here.
Okay, good. Let's see, why can I not see it?
Can we cut some sections off from the repair work order to make things easy for us? Cut things off some repair work order. Maybe Justice, what did you have in mind there?
You mean make it a simpler form with fewer boxes? Is that the question? And it may be that if you're working on a laptop with a small screen, some of the boxes are too small. That might be one of the problems. But yeah, Justice, can you please elaborate on your question? Thanks. But it's important feedback that we need to learn from, there are only a few people using the software currently, and every time someone starts to use it, we learn new things about what we could do to make it easier to use. So questions like this. Okay, so the buttons we fill in after repairs. Are you saying we should have fewer of those buttons, Justice? You could turn on your microphone. We could have a chat. We can unmute yourself. You want fewer buttons. Yeah. Okay. That's something we should talk about in one of our meetings as to which buttons are most important when you're doing a repair and documenting it, and which buttons are optional. Like on the inventory form, there are a whole bunch of boxes that are, which I didn't go into, that are hidden down on the right-hand side of the screen. And the inventory form was set up by, on the request, all of the boxes on the inventory form were requested by John Sienna as things he thought were important. Now, there are so many of them that it's going to be really difficult for you to fill them all in, except in very unusual situations. So we could do something similar on the repair form, hide some of the boxes behind in a folder, which if you wanted to add detail, you could, but I understand the request to make that form simpler, because it is actually maybe too detailed for, and it's going to take you too long. So that's important feedback. We need to discuss that further as to what could be left in and what could be taken out. And maybe in our next group meeting on a Sunday afternoon, we can start to go over that form and look at it in more detail. Thanks for that comment. Any more? We've got a couple of minutes left before we run out of time. Please feel free.
Bill, I think we can let Ebenezer from Nadoli tell us his experience in using the system with the asset tagging, and I mean going through the entire process.
Sure. Ebenezer, please unmute your microphone.
If there are any challenges that he encountered, yeah, that could also help. Hello, Ebenezer. I think it's probably far from his media.
Well, maybe we can get some feedback from him offline.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's important for anyone who's using this. It's important to raise questions and make comments, give us feedback, because this is always.
Justice and Ebenezer, they're having trouble unmuting themselves. I wonder if they're locked.
Ask to unmute. I'm actually, I'm not sure what's happening, but then
you should be able to. There's a button on the lower left-hand corner of your screen which shows a picture of the microphone. You should be able to unmute yourself by clicking on that.
we cannot unmute ourselves. That's what someone is. Let me see.
I wonder if you, as the host, Edward, if you're able to right-click on the individual and unmute them yourself.
Okay, let me try that. There's an option here as ask to unmute. I click that and
yeah,
but then they're still muted.
We are now muted. So now everybody can he or she wants to.
Someone's unmuted. Good.
Someone's unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay.
But maybe on some people's screens, it's Hard to find that button.
I guess I would suggest then that if people have some questions, perhaps they can put it onto the WhatsApp clinical engineers groups. If you can type your questions there, then we can take a look at that and have some communication after it.
Yeah, thanks. We're most anxious to get feedback from people who are actually using us, because we can't always see, you know, the things from the same perspective that you have. So we're trying to make this as easy to use as possible for the end user. And we can't do that without your feedback. So would be of great help if you give us some feedback on things you notice when you're trying to use the software. Okay. We've run a little bit past the time, so I think we should adjourn the webinar for now, and we'll look for some feedback. This webinar will be posted online. If you look back in the chat, there is a link to the previous webinar. This webinar will be posted online for people who missed it or want to watch it again. It'll be put up on YouTube as soon as we're able to do that. And we'll put the link in the WhatsApp group. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll adjourn the webinar. Bye for now.
Good to see some of you. Take care.